If you're struggling to quit drinking, you might be approaching the matter in a way that, well, it isn't really working. White knuckling and struggle don't have to be the theme of quitting alcohol. While it may seem like that at times, it doesn't have to be your primary experience. So today we're going to talk about surrender. And surrender is often misunderstood. Typically, it's understood as giving in to defeat or giving up, and it just has this connotation of weakness. But in the context of our discussion today, it is about acknowledgement and allowance, acknowledgement of the truth of our situation, the very reality of it. And out of this kind of surrender comes incredible power. Hi, everyone. I'm Jess, and this is episode 10 of our Quitting Drinking series. And if you're finding value in these videos, please give me a like and consider subscribing. And I'm going to include a link to the entire playlist in the description below. Today's topic might seem a little bit touchy-feely and a bit woo-woo. Still, from my experience, it is essential when discussing matters of true and lasting recovery and how we can regain a sense of overall well-being and liberation from all the things in life that can trap us. But first, let me give you a little perspective from my story. I spent just over 20 years in the Marine Corps, and as a woman in a male-dominated warfighting organization, you're expected to not show weakness. Makes sense, right? Showing emotions is often seen that way, as weakness, and being emotional is simply a liability, whether you're a man or a woman. It's just looked down on, that suck it up buttercup mentality. And nobody wants to be shunned or looked down on for being too soft. So there is an inner hardness that develops over the years, this rigidness. This almost seems to be necessary brainwashing when the mission is to fight and win wars. I retired from that career just about 14 years ago, so I've had some work to do to learn how to work with all this inner stuff, and the learning and the growing will be lifelong, I'm sure. So all that to say, it hasn't been easy to reach the point where I could find any softness in my heart and to just be able to lay down that inner protective shield that, I used to protect me from all vulnerability. So today we're going to discuss surrender, but maybe not in the way you're accustomed to think of it. This kind of surrender allows things to be as they are. We're not denying it, we're not resisting, and with that true allowing, a person finds that it's the gateway to empowerment for us to take positive action toward our recovery. And this surrender happens when one suddenly realizes that they just can't fight anymore, meaning they just can't resist reality anymore. Suddenly we realize that what we have been doing isn't working. This opens the door for what is known in Eastern philosophy as right action. We spend a significant portion of our lives denying the nature of reality. We deny the severity of the predicament we have gotten ourselves into. We come up with our own definition of what is happening. And we do this to avoid what is just too painful to confront. And we try our best to just package it up into something that we can handle. But we really aren't handling it very well, are we? But this is just a form of resistance to the truth of the problem. So before anything can happen, there has to be a realization of the truth and acceptance of it without any judgment. This is surrender. There is value in recognizing that our drinking could be causing suffering for ourselves, probably others too. Drinking has become so habituated in us that it perpetuates this cycle of suffering. When we surrender to the reality of it all, we can also discover the possibility of this suffering ending and take the right action needed that will lead to our recovery. And it's when we lay down our old ways that we can find this hope. It's almost like a new mind arises within us. In another video, I talked briefly about the role of mindfulness and how it can be really powerful in recovery. And it involves being present and aware of what is happening within this very moment. It is sincere and it is honest and it has no judgment. It does take practice if you're not used to it, but it is a worthwhile practice if you notice, for instance, cravings arising and to see that without reacting to the story about it. It's the same when you have certain emotions come up, noticing but not engaging with the story and always returning to the very immediate presence and sense of being, not trying to escape, not trying to resist, not trying to suppress anything that arises, but being okay with everything as it is. Now, I want to return to the notion of right action. You could call it, in the context of recovery from alcohol or other substances, as making choices that support your well being and your health, your sobriety. Right action could include seeking support or engaging in healthy activities that are alternatives to your old ways. This is how surrender to reality will bring a sense of vision and possibility. It will bring clarity for you to do whatever is necessary to get better. Part of right action is cultivating a sense of compassion for oneself. It is only until this is developed for most people that true and lasting recovery is reached. It is an essential aspect of right action. This is where we face and acknowledge our situation, we lay that ego down, and we all have an ego, and we forgive ourselves deeply. We recognize our fallibility, we recognize our imperfections, and we forgive. This is self compassion. And as long as the ego is in the way, we may be unable to do this. For some people, it can happen all at once, but for most of us, it happens gradually, and then we're finally ready to let go. In closing, I want to re-emphasize that surrender in the context of problem drinking and addiction is not about giving up. It's more about giving up the way we have been dealing with it. It involves acceptance and allowance of life as it is. This gives way for that new mind to arise to guide you down the path of right action toward a life of freedom. I hope you found some value in this video. Please share this with somebody it might encourage. And once again, please consider subscribing to this channel. Give me a like, and your feedback, of course, is welcome. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you all next time.